Let's talk, let's communicate, let's discuss this topic, and let's move forward. That's what it's all about. Let's Talk About It podcast. Welcome to Let's Talk About It podcast. My name is Priscilla Ramos. I hope you guys are doing good. We are going to start a new series today. It's about health in the Hispanic and Christian community. I'm excited. I'm excited for our guest that we're going to have in the future, in the coming series, in the coming episodes. Um, Today it's just going to be me, and we're going to go ahead and have a conversation. Now, I wanted to bring up the actual definition of health. But before I bring up the definition, I wanted to explain why I wanted to discuss this topic. Now, as a Christian and a Hispanic myself, I find that the discussion of health is very complicated in our community. So I want to find out why, and I want to find out what is the reasons why it is so hard for us to communicate about health, and what is the reasons why we have such a stigma of doctors and hospitals. So I just wanted to discuss that, and I'm hoping by the end of this series, we all could understand why our health is so important. I want people to, not even people, I want myself and others to feel comfortable going to a doctor about anything, about our physical health, our mental health. So that is my goal of this series for this podcast. So I hope you guys join in every episode. You guys listen to every episode. And let's begin. So I have here a definition of health. And the reason why I brought this definition, I'm going to explain it. So let me go ahead and tell you what it says. And this is from World Health Organization. It says, health is defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease. And the reason why I like that definition was because it included physical, mental, and social well-being. And then it also specified that it is not merely the absence of disease. For me, in my family, in my household, when you ask, for example, let's say my mother-in-law, and I ask her, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Her response is, I'm doing great. Little pain here and there, but in Victoria means we're in victory. That's always her response. And now when I go to my father, he says the same thing. He says, oh, I'm good. I'm tired. Every day I have to drink Tylenol because of my back pain, but I'm good. I'm good. I'm living life. We have to continue to work, right? And that's always their response. And it scares me sometimes because some people don't realize that your health is important. Not only physical health, because sometimes our body tells us when we need to see a doctor because of pain. Our body tells us, hey, your leg hurts. Maybe you should go ahead and see a doctor. Your leg is throbbing and you need to see a doctor, right? Physical pain is easier to recognize, easier to admit that you have. For the Christian and Hispanic community, at least for my personal experience, a lot of people don't talk about it, and that scares me because mental health can bring on so many more issues than what we tend to accept and want to accept. And mental health is so important, and it's part of your health. We always think that health is, like I said in the definition, the absence of disease. And it's not only the absence of disease. There is good health. There is bad health. There is normal health. There's abnormal health. I mean, there's so many definitions of health. And I feel like we as Hispanics, as Christians, don't understand that there is a good and a bad, and there is an okay as well. So that's interesting to think about. And then also mental health. I haven't heard many Hispanic Christian churches speak about mental health. And that is scary to me because mental health can bring on so many more effects on the body. For example, it can bring on stress. And if you go into the research of stress, stress can literally affect your body. It can give you chronic pain, and it's all from stress, all from mental illnesses that many of us have that we will never ever acknowledge. And that's because culturally we are just accustomed to saying we are okay. And especially for the Hispanic community is very strong. If you go to a woman and say a Hispanic woman and say, "Hey, are you feeling good?" They're gonna say yes because they are strong women. They're strong and they believe that they can do it all. And I really, for me and my household and my mother and my sisters, I can genuinely say I am strong. And I don't know if it's because culturally I was taught that women are strong no matter what. And I think that's something that may affect us. It's something positive because obviously being strong is a positive word, a positive mindset. But when it's hard to say you're strong and then and admit that you have a weakness. So, and mental health, you feel like it's a weakness. So, to get a little personal, I wanted to bring this up. I remember when I had my first child. I was pregnant when my first child, and before I gave birth, I was depressed, and I didn't know what it was because I never went through it. I never went through the word depression. Never understood the word depression. I thought depression was for the weak. And especially for my family, depression, you speak about depression and they will laugh in your face. They say, "Oh, you just get over yourself. You're okay. You need to just, um, what is a famous word? You need to, oh wow, what is that word? You need to work. You need to get your mind away from things. You need to um, go around people so that way you can stop thinking about whatever you're thinking about." And obviously that can help. For depression, it is being surrounding yourself with positive people is great as well for depression. But the actual word depression doesn't exist in my family and in my church. Well, it didn't back in the day. And then so I was depressed when before I even had my baby. I had my second child. It was a great pregnancy. But when I gave birth to my second child, I went through drastic postpartum depression. And it was shocking because I never went through it. And not only that, it was like I was in the dark because who am I going to tell if I've never spoken about depression in my family and in my church. And think about it, the Christian community, we are told to have faith. And if you do not have faith, then you're not a true Christian. It says in the word that by your wounds, we are healed. So they instantly want to pray for healing, which is great, which is, obviously, as a Christian, I believe in prayer. But what happens when you pray and it's still there? Who do you talk to if you can't talk to your Christian community and you can't talk to your family, which is Hispanic? Who do you talk to? And we're not told to go talk to any doctors. So that is scary. You can't talk to your family, you can't talk to your church, and you can't talk to your doctors because your custom, that's not your custom. You know, culturally, you just stay quiet. And that is so scary. And obviously, when I was going through the postpartum depression, I didn't think about it until I would say 8 months in, and I wanted to explode. And I'm like, okay, we gotta change this up because you don't, not you, and this is all in your mind as well. You feel like people don't want you to speak, but it's culturally that's what's put in your mind, you know? And I remember thinking, I have to say something because I need help, and if I don't say anything, then who's gonna help me? So I sat there and I went ahead and I spoke to my pastor, and then I also spoke to my best friend about it, and surprisingly they were encouraging. They understood, and they understood what I was going through. But what was so crazy was they understood what I was going through, and they prayed for me, and they were there for me through it all. But before that, I never heard or I never heard anyone speak about postpartum depression, at least in my family, at least in my church. I've heard of it in social media, and I heard about it in my classes or at work. You hear about it, but it's not the same when it's not from your own people, from it's not from your own family or your own church. So I found that interesting that they understood, but there was no one I can go to and say, "Hey, you've been through this. What did you do?" You know? Um, so that was very interesting, and shocking to know that the Christian and Hispanic community are not outspoken about it. So after that, I was determined. I was determined to let people know, hey, um, I went through it, you know, I went through it. So, and I got through it, and you can get through it too. So now I'm determined to everyone that I see that is pregnant or had a baby, my first question is to them. I usually text them so no one is around. And I usually say, hey, how are you doing? And their instant response, just like any Hispanic or any Christian would say, oh, in victory, or, oh, I'm great. I just had my baby. I'm in love, right? And then my response always does not fail. My response is, no, how are you really doing? And then they say, what do you mean? And then I go ahead and I tell them without them asking me. I tell them, hey, the reason why I'm asking you is because when I was pregnant or when I gave birth to my child, I was in a severe depression, and I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Because the depression is from your hormones, and I just explained the process of why women go through postpartum depression. And a lot of them shockingly admit to it afterwards, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know who to speak to because you know how it is. Depression is not, it's a, in the Christian community, you saying the word depression is a no-no, if that makes any type of sense. The word depression, no-no. And it's like if you say the word, you become the word. And that's with anything, not only depression, with any type of negative word. You say the word, it's like, oh my God, your tongue has power for death or life, for life or death. And if you say it, don't say that because you're not depressed. Declare that you're not depressed. But it's the truth, you know, and who are we going to talk to about it if no one speaks out? And it's different to hear it from someone in social media that has nothing to do with you and your personal life. And it's different when you hear it from your own family or your own um, church or your own sister or brother in Christ. So by hearing it, we understand that it's okay to speak about it. Um, so yeah, I wanted to start off by saying that we need to not only worry about our physical health, but worry about our mental health in the Christian and Hispanic community. And not only that community, if you feel like you're a community that I'm not aware of, because obviously we're part of many cultures, but those two main communities are what impact my life. But if there is other communities have that are not willing to express the severity of mental health, we need to speak out. We need to say something, and we need to discuss it with our doctors. So the next episode, I wanted to discuss how important it is to discuss your health with your doctor, and how um, culturally we're not used to speaking to our doctors. But hey, it's we need to do it. We need to go ahead and be brave and speak to our doctor and not say, "Oh, it's okay, you'll be fine." So I have a guest coming in, and the reason why I have that guest is because I wanted to see his in or have his input on his health and his family's health. It's not really about how do I say this? I don't want him to speak about any type of, how do I say this? I just want him to explain his experience of his life, and how, if he's have seen any doctors recently, and if his family has seen any doctors recently. So I wanted to have him come and just really talk and see his opinion and see what goes from there. So that's going to be the next episode. And then after that, let's see if we could get new ideas of how to speak to doctors. So I hope you guys enjoyed this small little short podcast, this small little short episode, I should say. And stay tuned. I'm super excited. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.